Yeah, yeah. Side Talk TV. So today we've got a guest on the channel, Shakira. How you doing, Shakira?
I'm good, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Shakira's got a story she's gonna be telling us. Yeah. So introduce yourself and tell us how you doing.
Yeah, so I'm Shakira.
Yeah,
I wanted to get on here and
yeah.
basically talk about my experience in a religious cult, which is the name is the World Mission Society Church of God. I was a member for almost 14 years.
14.
Basically, the cult is based in Old Trafford, so not far. So I wanted to get on here and basically warn people and tell my story because they are about recruiting. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what was your experience? How did you find this church basically?
Yeah, so it's more like they found me.
They
To
found
be
you.
fair. So as I say,
Yeah.
it was around 14 years ago now. So I was only 14 years old.
Hmm.
I was at home one day. It was the summer holidays, and I was at home alone. And basically, I got a knock on the door. I answered the door. It was these two Asian people. I
Hmm.
thought they were Chinese, but
Hmm.
actually they were South Korean.
Yeah.
And they told me they were students, and they told me they had like a presentation to do, which was based on the Bible. So I wasn't interested really in the Bible, but I was like, okay, they were really nice and friendly, like they were smiling,
Hmm.
and I was like, okay, why not? So they showed me this. They pulled out a binder and they basically showed me like all these this presentation had like Bible verses and had like pictures of
Hmm.
like disasters and stuff. So the Bible verses were about the end times and like
Yeah.
earthquakes and all these things are going to be the sign of the end.
Yeah.
And it had all these pictures of like all kinds of disasters that are happening around the world and like a graph showing like how it's gotten worse and worse over the years. It was really convincing to me at the time at the age of 14. So I was like, oh, this is terrible. And they were basically saying if you do the ceremony, which is called the Passover, where you eat bread and wine, you can be protected from these like disasters and you can go to heaven. And I was like, okay, simple, right? So they wanted me to keep the Passover there and then. They were
Yeah.
really insistent, like, you should keep the Passover. So I was like, oh, okay, sure, I'll keep it. Like, I can get bread and wine, whatever. And they were like, oh, you can keep it now, and we can call our teacher, and our teacher can come and he can conduct the ceremony because you need someone who's like has like the authority to like bless the bread and wine and stuff like that.
So I don't cut you. So just like there and then, you've introduced yourself to these people, and they introduce themselves to you,
Yeah,
and in the same conversation, they're saying to you, they could do this ceremony right now,
yeah,
and
same day.
they could call the teacher, and the teacher could be here now.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was like around the corner.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
You must be sat in the car waiting.
Yeah, I think he was probably dropping them off to each house. Maybe this one.
Yeah.
So he did come, like they called him,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
when he was like on the way, they were explaining to me about the ceremony.
Mhm.
So I thought it was just bread and wine,
Mhm.
but then they said you have to cleanse your sins first. So with water.
Okay.
So they didn't use the word baptism, but it was baptism basically.
Okay, yeah.
The same kind of thing. So I was like, okay. So I was like, how are we going to do it? They were like, you can do it in the bathroom. So I was like, okay. I was wearing like my pajamas, so I thought, well, I don't mind if they get wet.
So was there anyone at home with you at the time?
No.
So you was 14 years old,
Yeah.
and you've basically invited three strangers inside your house because you said there was two, and they call a next person.
Another person, yeah.
So that's three person. And I
Yeah.
assume it's three guys.
No, it was, I should have mentioned that. It was a woman and a man.
A woman and a
first,
man, yeah.
And then the teacher was a man, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, well, regardless, it's three strangers
Yeah.
inside the house as a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Nah, they were taking advantage of that. Yeah, because they should have never come through your door. So basically, that's the ceremony. So what happened? How did it start? Basically, like the whole
the ceremony or
no, not the ceremony. Just after that, like, you know, what I mean, how did you start finding it like going? And because you're saying it's a cult church, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how did you get to start finding out these?
Like what was actually wrong with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was slow at first. So I actually, after being baptized, I invited my best friend because she liked Korean culture. So she was like, "Oh yeah, I want to come." So I invited her. We both started attending together. At the time, it was a house church, which I don't particularly have any problem with. Like, it's fine. It's not, the building isn't important. But then later on they moved to a bigger building, and it was very slow. Like, everyone was really nice at first. Like, they were really welcoming. They would like hug me every time I came. They were like, "Welcome, sister," blah blah. But like, I think from the beginning, the Bible teachings that they were teaching us were really quite heavy. I guess you could say. Like, there was at first in the early days there was an emphasis on the end of the world. So they kind of always hinted at 2012 as being the end. But like at first they never said it too directly.
Yeah.
But the like that year was always passed around. Like, people would always say like 2012, could be the end. There was like the Mayan calendar thing at the time. So they were like, oh, it could be the end, but it'll definitely be soon. So there was like that sort of doomsday thing all the time, and it was quite scary. Like, they would tell us like, when the end comes, we need to prepare. Well, before the end comes, we need to prepare like food and water and all that kind of thing, and then we need to like go in like the church. Like, we'll get like a phone call basically, and to say gather in the church and like just wait out until the end. So it was actually terrifying, because I always thought like the world was going to end in like basically like in 2 years' time. So that was the first thing, like some of the teachings, and then not only just like the end of the world teachings and disasters and all that, but also they taught us, and you're gonna have to like bear with me on this one. They taught us that a Korean man, who's dead now, and he was the one who actually established their church. They taught that he was second coming Christ, and actually essentially that he was God, and his kind of wife, anyway, a Korean woman who is alive now in South Korea. They taught that she was the God the Mother, is what we used to say. So we used to say God the Father and God the Mother, and we were actually referring to human beings who actually like exist. So they teach you it through the Bible, and it's like, because they feed you things like slowly. You think, oh yeah, this is true. Like, they teach you, one of the first things they teach you is the Sabbath day is Saturday, which, I mean, it's true. So you're like, okay, yeah, that's true. And what else do they know? But then slowly they start to go into more and more sort of wild things. And eventually they reveal that to you, that like this man and this woman in Korea are God. And you're like, oh, but by that point you already believe, like, you're already like, okay, you've already accepted the other stuff, and therefore you accept that kind of thing. I know it sounds mad, but
it is mad, isn't it? Because when you start hearing like a living person is God, like, you know what I mean? That's alarm signs, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
So how soon did your parents found out that you joined this church? Like,
that's a good question, actually. It's hard to remember, because I know initially I did kind of keep it secret. Like, I was a bit, I wasn't sure. I think it was probably a month in, or maybe a month and a half.
Okay, well, that's not too late, really. I thought you was going to say a couple of years.
I don't think I'm going to say that.
Okay. But so when did alarm bells really start going off for you? Like,
for me, years later. Because the more like people said to me that, oh, it's a cult, I was like, they'd already taught me that people are going to say that. You know what I mean? And they had the Bible verses to show, oh, Jesus was called a cult. You know what I mean? So they were like already preparing me for that. So whenever someone came to me and said it's a cult, I was like, that's from Satan. Like,
So when was the first time someone came to you and said to you it was a cult church?
I think it was either my friends at school, or it was my parents, or my brother, maybe, actually.
Yeah, but what did they give you an explanation why they called it a cult church? Why they said it was a cult church?
The main thing was just, it's different, it's weird. They didn't know all the teachings. Like, I didn't tell them about like God the Father and God the Mother. So they knew maybe about the Passover or the Sabbath, and so they just thought it was weird. Like, I was going there every day. Like, at some point.
So when did it start becoming clear to you that, okay, they was telling you the truth all the time, that it is actually a cult? What was the first sign that you thought, well...
The very first time I had like a little doubt in my mind, I think was in 2018 or 2018 to 2019. I studied Japanese in university. So I traveled to Japan for a year as a student. I actually attended the church in Japan for a year. But at that time, it was a difficult time. Like, I didn't have much money, and like, it was just like, I was a bit homesick and everything. I started to feel a bit depressed. I spent a lot of time indoors. So at that time, I was looking online a lot. And I looked at a lot of stuff about cults. I kind of went down a rabbit hole about cults, and looking at other cults and how they operate and how they brainwash people. It was hard to sort of deny the connection with this place, like the way that they kind of use these certain tactics. It was sort of the same thing, like love bombing. At first being really, really nice, and then slowly sort of spoon feeding you these little things, and then kind of being passive aggressive towards you, and all this kind of thing. And kind of like beating you over the head with the Bible, basically. So I started to kind of think a little bit like, is this a cult? And I was kind of scared, but then I was like, no, I don't want to like think that way, because I was already like, I think at that point I'd already been in the church for like, how long? Like 10 years, something like that. So it was like I couldn't allow myself to admit that it was a cult kind of thing. And it was more comfortable to just be like, no, it's just, so Satan again.
So what was the first actual happening and stuff that happened that you've seen that you thought, okay, this is definitely a cult? Did you find it out over there in Japan or China where you said it was, or was it
that was
the UK?
More like here.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that was the last year that I attended the church, which was last year. So I left at the start of this year. So last year I had a leadership position in the church. I was what's called a unit leader. So it's basically someone who is in charge of a certain amount of members. So I think I was in charge of maybe about 10 members, I think. But they didn't come to church often. So I was in charge of probably about 3. But I was in charge of like a certain amount of young adults. And I had to teach them the same stuff I was learning. And when you become a leader, you're held to a higher standard. So they started coming down on me a lot harder. We had a missionary who was put in charge of us. And she clearly didn't like me. She was not nice to me at all. She would constantly just criticize me. She criticized my weight. She criticized what I wear. If I didn't come to church one day, she'd be on me. She'd be like, where were you? Asking me all these questions. And it was a lot of mental strain. And I always felt like I had to walk on eggshells around her. So she was the first thing that made me think. Another thing is I started to see how the church was operating, because I was now part of the machine, if that makes sense. So things that I thought was just natural was actually orchestrated by the church.
Okay.
So for example, when there was a member who was in my unit, and every week we were expected to come to the church on the Saturday and spend the whole day there and worship, but she missed a few times, a few Saturdays, because of her family. She lives quite far, and her family lived in London, so they would come and visit, and her family weren't members, so she missed loads of worship services. And I was like, we just need to pray for her, whatever. But my group leader, which now is above me, she was really not happy with that. And she was like, no, we need to make her feel guilty for missing the Sabbath. And then I was thinking well, I thought God is supposed to make you feel like that, the Holy Spirit. But it wasn't the Holy Spirit. It was we, us as a group. So she was like, well, if she tells you next time that she can't keep the Sabbath tomorrow or something like that, what you need to say is not just accept it, but you need to be like, oh, well, that's, sister, that's really sad. I wish you could keep the Sabbath, really make her feel bad.
Yeah.
And then when she doesn't keep it, and then she comes the next week and she says, oh, how was the last Sabbath day that I missed? Be like, oh, it was so amazing. Oh, you should have been there. We did this and we did that. And it was wow. You need to make her feel like she missed something.
Yeah.
And then someone did that to me when I was in Japan. One of my group leader did that to me. Because instead of going to this gathering that we had, which was there was some performances and all these things, she was like, yeah, we really, you really should come. It's going to be amazing. I had already bought tickets to go to Disneyland on the same day. So I was like, oh, I can't come. And she looked really disappointed. She was like, oh. And then she was like, oh, but you want to be a unit leader, right? And she's like, I don't think, if you're a unit leader, I wonder if they're going to let you, I wonder if they're going to let you become a unit leader if you miss too many meetings. Yeah. And I was like, I just missed one.
Making it feel guilty.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So just for the viewers that's watching, what would you, the word cult, how would you explain that word? What's the meaning of the word cult?
That's
your
an
definition.
important thing.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people think of cult as something totally crazy, so obvious, as in they're doing these rituals and like, you know,
because to me that's my vision of the word cult. I just expect people getting killed, people getting eaten, all that in it, and blood
chanting,
sacrifices, all that, So what's your definition of cult and what?
Yeah, I would say basically a place that has a higher level of control than what's like normal. So like it's not something that I've made, but there's a cult exit counselor called Steve Hassan, and basically he made this thing called the BITE model. So BITE stands for behavior control, information control, thought control, and emotional control. So those 4 things I think is what makes a cult. So if they control your behavior through, like, I don't know, for example, with our church it was like through videos. They put like videos up saying this is how a Christian should act, and it's like all this stuff that you should do. And then they have educations where they kind of like half shame you. They're like, oh, do you think it's good if a sister wears this, or do you think it's good if a brother does this? And it's like, no, everyone says no altogether, and then we all say amen all together, and then you feel like I have to as well because you feel shame. So it changes your behavior. And then information control, they definitely control how much like information, like there's a lot of things online about this church saying like, you know, explaining why the church is a cult and why it's wrong, but they tell you like, don't look at that stuff online because it's from Satan. And if you look at it, it's like eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So like God said, don't eat from the tree. And then when they ate from it, what happened? You know, it died. So it scares you because you think your soul's going to die. If I look at that, my soul's going to die. I'm not going to be able to be saved. So that's definitely information control.
So apart from like in those sense, was there any like ritual that went on there that you think people should know about, or was it just
rituals?
Was it just controlling behavior?
Just control, I think. Yeah, there was no like any like particularly strange rituals.
Okay. So you wrote a book, and the book is where's the book? So the book is it's called The Church of Cult, So it says my experience in the world, mission, society, Church of God, So Shakira Thomas. So basically, so tell us a bit more and what was the reason behind you writing this book?
Yeah, so there was a couple of reasons. First of all, like when I left, I had all these memories and I had all these kind of experiences and emotions and all that like I felt like I needed to get it out somehow. So I just started writing. I was like, I bet I can write a book about all this. And I started writing and it naturally just became a book. And I was quite surprised how sort of smoothly it went. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was I want to warn people who don't know about it. The third thing was when I left the church, I didn't really tell anyone. I told the leader, like the overseer, kind of like the pastor, but I didn't tell anyone else really why I was leaving and all the rest of it. And they were probably really confused because I thought a couple of times I ran into some current members and they were like, they thought I was dead or something. Because you go from going every single day and really believing it and all of that to suddenly not going. So they think like, is she okay? Did she transfer to another church? You know, is she dead? You know, so they really couldn't understand, and it was hard for me to even say to them exactly this is why I left, or you know, because
what made you left though, and what was the real reason?
The main thing, there were so many things. Like first of all, I was so tired of being like, just like controlled every day. Like every day I was like work, church, home, work, church, home. Like I couldn't miss a single day. So that was the first thing. But I just had this sort of moment, this almost like epiphany moment of like, it's not even true. And that's what got me like, okay, if it's not true, I need to leave. What's the point of staying?
Yeah. So when you say, so they recruit people for this church, is there black people in this church?
Yeah, a lot.
A lot of black people in this church?
Yeah.
It's a Korean church?
Yeah.
Okay. So from your experience, have you seen any difference in the way they've treated people of color, different from obviously their own?
Yes, but it's very subtle. So the first, like when I first went to the church, we had a pastor who actually ended up getting kicked out of the church. The official reason is that he stole money from the church, but I'm not entirely sure if that was the reason. But anyway, that pastor was really intense. And
is he Korean?
yeah, he's Korean.
Okay,
I
yeah.
should have mentioned that. So he was very obvious with it. So we would take pictures after the feast, like the Passover and things like that, like group pictures, and those pictures would be sent to Korea, to the head office. So it was really important that the pictures were perfect. So these pictures, you would have the Koreans, first of all. We had a lot of Korean members. And he would just tell them all in Korean, go back. By the way, I know a little bit of Korean, so I could understand something. I've been there a long time, so I picked up some things. But he would tell them all in Korean, just go to the back, and you would see them all stand at the back. Then he usually had like a kind of a helper, like a person who would move people around and check that okay, it's all right, and then we can take the picture or not. So he would talk to them in Korean. This is the best way to do it because people wouldn't know what he was saying. But he would tell them like, move this person a little bit back or move that person forward. And what you would notice is in the front of the picture, it's mostly the white people, and then as you go further back, the tone gets darker and darker and darker until right at the back. But he did do it in a way that was more subtle, that like it wasn't all white at the front and then all black at the back. It was like mostly white. Like he'd make sure to bring the white people, and it had to be the people that he wanted, like the people who were dressed in a suit and the hair was all nice and everything like that. It had to be the people who looked presentable there at the front. So
from your experience, do you think that's because of the presentation of the photo, or is it because of him trying to basically put the black people at the back?
Like a sort of a Rose Park situation. It's more about the presentation. I think it sort of speaks to Korean culture, because in Korean culture they believe white is beautiful, like white skin, pale skin. So when they see like white people, they think that's automatically that's beautiful. And like you should see the way they were trying to avoid getting tan when it was sunny and stuff like that. They've got like umbrellas out. Like they did not want to get dark at all. So for them, white is beautiful. So they want that white is beautiful and white is presentable. But also when you would look at pictures like from America, you would see mostly white people at the front, like from the American churches, I mean. But they had churches in Africa. So then they'd have all the black people at the front. So it's more like stereotypes, this is what you expect, and that's what, when they send it back to Korea, they want the Korean members to see that and go, wow, look, no matter where we go, we're getting people like native people. But if you have, okay, this is the UK, and Korean people think the UK is full of white people, but then the pictures of black people, they feel a bit like, oh.
So you've said you've been in there like for how many years, and you said you've then gained a certain position. Would you say that when you've been there, we're not trying to make it about racism or whatever?
I mean, it's a small part. Basically.
So the question I wanted to ask is, have you been there to see anyone who was darker complexion than you, and then you rose above that person?
Like in a sense of like it was clearly unfair, you mean, or just in general?
Well, whichever, in general or unfair, because if the person's there before you, then you'd have expect them to get a role before you. But I'm saying because of your complexion, you're a bit lighter than that person might be. Do you think they would have put you in front of that person?
I think they would have. If there was a choice, if we were both the same level, then they would have put me first.
That's what I'm saying.
But I can't say I experienced that. I can't remember, or I can't recall a certain time where that kind of thing happened.
So what's your message to basically like, because you're saying they're recruiting people, and your message, you basically don't want people to get caught in the same situation as you. So what would be your message, or what would be your warning to people for them to look out for these recruiters?
I would say well, first of all, they recruit all kinds of people. So I would say, first of all, if you're a Christian and they're trying to recruit you, whatever they say, whatever they show you in the Bible, don't just immediately go, yes, that makes sense. Actually read the Bible, like read the verse that they show you, read it in context. So that you know, like, oh, they've just picked it out, because that's what they do. They just pick out verses and then like go around the Bible and go, see, this means this, but they've just like pasted it together. So I would say if you're a Christian, definitely do that first before you make any commitments to join in. And also just know, like, at the beginning, they're really nice. They really seem genuine. They seem caring about you. They might even like give you like gifts. You know, when you come to the church, they're going to give you food. They're going to do everything for you. Like, it's really, really nice. But that doesn't last. Like, that's the beginning. And then once they've got you and they know, like, okay, she believes now, then they'll start being a bit harsher to you and they'll expect more of you. And if you're not coming to church every single day, it will come to a point where if you're not coming to church every single day, you're going to be in trouble.
So when you say every single day, do you mean every Saturday, or do you mean every day?
Every single day.
So today, tomorrow, the day after, every day, you've got to go home, then go to.
Yeah.
So what do you do there?
So there's different types of members. There's normal members, which we used to call lay members, and there's like gospel workers. So gospel workers go every day, lay members don't. But for a gospel worker, it's what they want you to be. Everybody like wants you to be a gospel worker, so they try and push you to be one. But when you become a gospel worker, what you're doing is basically recruiting mostly. You're recruiting and you're studying the Bible. So there'll be, say, Monday night, there'll be Bible study meeting. So you'll come and you'll study the Bible and you practice these presentations over and over again until like it just flows naturally. So then when you meet someone,
you can recite it.
Yeah, exactly. Or then maybe, Tuesday they also had worship in the evening. So Tuesdays worship, and then like Wednesday, I think it was another study meeting or sometimes like preaching. But so they'll send you out in 2s or 3s, and you'll basically go in the street or you'll knock doors. And you just try and bring people in, basically. You just recruit people. So it's more of a machine so they can get more people in and so they can make more money. That's the whole thing.
So it's more like, have you seen that church? Is it American church? Is it the Mormons?
It's very similar.
Yeah, because they send people out and
the
see
missionaries.
those missionaries, and to do. So basically, you've wrote a book. Has it been published? Has it been out?
Yeah, it's in Amazon. There's Kindle version, ebook, and there's the paperback version as well.
Okay. And then how much is the book?
I actually can't remember. I should have checked that. Not a lot.
Not a lot. It's affordable.
Yeah.
So basically, if people want the book, they can go and look for the church or cult, and it's by Shakira Thomas, basically. Is there anything in the book that you'd like to highlight to us today that I think is very important for people to know?
I did write it down, but I forgot the papers in my bag. I think, there's one thing, tithe. So as I mentioned, the church wants to, essentially what they want is to get people's money. I would say it's just a business. It's not really a church in that sense, but it's just like a business masquerading as a church.
So do you have to give money?
Yes. Yeah.
So when you say, I said have to, what make you say you have to give money? So if you should go to church and you didn't have any offering or whatever, that would be an issue. Yeah,
well, it depends who you are. So if you've just joined, that's not an issue.
Okay.
But
so trying to win you over, basically.
Yeah. You're still in that mode of like love bombing and we love you, sister, like all that stuff. But basically, they have a study course. So when you get to the end of the study course, the last subject is tithe. It's called the law of tithe. So you teach them basically through the Bible that as God's people, we have to give 10% of our earnings. I'm sure a lot of churches teach that as well. So 10% must be given to the church before anything else.
Yeah.
So basically, when they teach you that, it's not really a choice. And the thing is, like, after they teach you about tithe, if you don't practice tithe, they have another subject. I think it's called blessings through tithings, which is basically a subject where they push it even more. And they kind of say, if you don't give tithe, then it's basically like you're disobeying God like Adam and Eve. It always comes back to Adam and Eve. But yeah, basically like, you're listening to Satan rather than to God.
Yeah.
And then it's like, how is that a choice,
So this one on page 104, you talk about the Barnard's incident.
Oh, yeah.
So it says around the time that Deaconess Kaylee had moved to the female adult group, I landed a new part-time job as a door-to-door fundraiser with the children. So your job would have to go out door to door.
Yeah.
And so what do you say to the people when you go to the door?
So that was for my part-time job with the charity.
That's not for the church?
No.
Okay. I I thought, okay. No, I thought you was doing door to door for the church, raising funds.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking like you turn up what you say to them like to get that money from you know what I mean, for the church. Okay.
They never ask for money outside of the church. They ask from the members.
Members inside the church. Yeah.
So when you do the whole tithe study, you're expected to give 10%. That has to come out first. Like whatever you earn, you have to then basically take out 10% and give it to the church every month or every week, depending on how often you get paid. So I had to do that as well. And it's not a choice, because when I didn't do it, I got called into the study room to talk about the fact that I didn't practice tithe. So when you practice tithe, you have to put your name on the thing. It's like an envelope, put your name on it, and then you put the money in. And if you don't practice, so you don't give any money that month, well, in my case, I was talked to about it. And they were asking me, basically grilling me, like, why are you not giving money? Like, tithe belongs to God. You need to give it first, basically. And it was a pretty horrible experience.
And did you not? You should have asked, how did God spend this money?
Yeah, I should have asked that. Yeah, now I know the answer.
Because that would be a very good question. You know what I mean? Because people keep saying that, you know, about the church, like, you should pay tithes and that, you know what I mean? Even my mom tell me that. She's like, oh, you should give the church something. I'm not, you know what I mean? But
they need to run at the end of the day.
Yeah, I understand that. But you see, what does the church... So if you should lose your job, God forbid, yeah, and you go to the church and you should say, as a member, can you pay my rent for this month? Do you think they would pay your rent?
No.
Exactly, but you've been giving these people 10% for how long, innit? Yeah? So why can't they help you? Now, if they've been getting 10% from how many people for how long, they should have thousands of percentage somewhere put down. So when this rainy day comes, that sister or brother fell on a hard time, they should be able to help.
Yeah.
And this is where the church is falling short.
Yeah,
in my, you know what I mean? Because how do they help? You know what I mean? Yeah. And for someone to come in like yourself and you've not thrown a tithe, it shouldn't be an issue. You know what I mean? As a one-off, because you could be going through other stuff. That you needed financial help.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So they should be calling inside the office and find out, like, is everything okay, Shakira? You know what I mean? How can we help?
It was not like that at all.
You know what I mean? We understand that. We realize you didn't throw any tithes this month. You know what I mean? Is there any way we can help you out? You know what I mean? Yeah. Because that's how the church should be, realistically.
It should be, yeah.
And then they would have got more from people. And, you know what I mean? Yeah. Are even going out more in the community, doing things for the community. You know
I can talk about that as well, actually. They do volunteer work.
Okay.
They have a whole voluntary organization. Well, when you hear about it, you might not say that. They have a whole voluntary organization, but they have a few, actually. But the main one is ASES, which stands for Save the World from A to Z or something like that.
Yeah.
But basically, it's supposed to be the members. Usually, I think we used to do it every few months, but they kind of make it out like we do it more. But like every few months we do like a cleanup campaign. Okay. So we'd go around the area. You may have seen them around Old Trafford. Yeah. We would wear these sort of green like high-vis jackets to kind of stand out, and it has like the church's name and website on the back. And we would go out and we would like collect rubbish and things like that off the street, which is good. It was a good thing, and it felt really good to do that. But the real reason why they did all that was actually to receive awards from like the government from the council in all different countries, and then they put it on their promotional video, and the website as well. Yeah, and they were like, "We received all these awards. That's why we're the true church." So it was all really just for PR. So it's not really genuine, I think.
Yeah, most churches does things like that because, like I said, it's not for the real reason.
Yeah,
it's for the PR reason, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because being around there in Mosside over the years, I can't say I've seen a lot of churches, if any, even coming out when these guys getting stabbed or getting shot. You know what I mean? I don't see the church like there is people. Don't get me wrong, who from the church.
Yeah, people from.
But I'm saying like you know what I mean. We being because of a society where there's so many churches and you know what I mean, religion wise, whatever the situation is, then we should be seeing more street pastors out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like actually getting involved.
Yeah, like
you know what I mean?
like
helping the community. And even encouraging like the younger ones to come to church. You know what I mean? Because this is where, in my time, I used to have to go to church. You know what I mean? Yeah. So all this, like you're saying, when you was young, it's part of the experience. You know what I mean? Because you believe in something, and obviously it lead you in, and then from there you start. But then as you grow, you're starting to find out. You're getting older. You're starting to realize that not everything they say in black and white is actually is. Exactly. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's the same thing for me. You know what I mean? When I was going to church, I asked the pastor a certain question. He couldn't really answer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, the beat around the bush, or they tell you, don't ask that. You've blasphemed or all this nonsense in it. Yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
It is, but yet still it's in the Bible. Yeah. So it's like, and then now you've got like different teachings of the Bible. Like you just stated before, that they would put certain things together at that church. Different verses. And then make it sound like, you know what I mean, yeah. Which is, you're seeing churches online how people are about that, you know what I mean, they do things like that where they go inside the Bible and they tell you certain things. And you know what I mean? I don't know if I don't believe the Bible, if I believe the Bible, if I'm honest with you. I'm 50-50. Because it was written by a man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, but
there's no denying that.
Exactly. So when did God tell them like what to write?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And how?
And how, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I was listening to this guy called Muta Baruka from Jamaica.
Yeah.
And he was telling you like most of these people who wrote in the Bible speak about themselves in a third.
Like Moses and stuff.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Yeah. In a third person. You know what I mean? Yeah. But then if you was writing the Bible from a self-experience perspective, you'd be saying, "Hi, Shakira."
Yeah.
Seeing this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
You'd be saying, you know what I mean, the wireless.
It's so bizarre.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it is, isn't it? Well,
and Moses wrote about his own death.
this is what the guy was saying. You know what I mean? How did he know about his own death? How did he know that? You know what I mean? But not to disbelieve, because to me, let's get this clear: there is a God, there is a Creator. But it's just because as we know, there's like 63 or 68 books that makes the Bible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So therefore, from my belief, like I'm saying, the more I get older and I'm starting to like listening to different sides and whatever, then I'm starting to question in certain things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In the Bible.
Yeah, which is healthy. I mean, I think that's the problem actually with a lot of churches, is that you don't question. I certainly didn't question for a long time. And it's like, you should actually. You should. It's your life.
And like you said, it's your experience, innit? And it's good that basically you sit down and you could put pen to paper, you know what I mean, and put your thoughts and said, okay, this is what you think. Because like I said, you wouldn't like a young person to get caught up in the same situation that you did. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because from your experience, it don't sound like it was a great experience.
It's not a place to live your life, really. It's not a way to live your life, going to church every day, going to any place like every day and like feeling obliged to do it, and having to convince people of your strange beliefs and while they just look at you like you're crazy. It's just not great. And
did it make you feel depressed at any point?
Absolutely. Yeah. But I never, at the time when I got depressed, I didn't really blame the church. I didn't put two and two together.
Yes.
I thought it was like just other things. But when you think about it, it must have been because it was a depressing experience. I definitely wouldn't go back.
Yeah. So which church do you go now?
That's a good question. None. I'm not.
You're not a Christian anymore. No. So, okay. So, is that church was actually a Christian church?
They would say so, yeah. They believe in God. They study the Bible. I think if you study the Bible, they believe in Jesus as well.
Okay.
But they believe that he came a second time as a Korean man. So a bit different. But yeah, they are Christian, I would say.
It's quite wild though, isn't it?
Yeah.
For you to think that. So I've never heard it, innit? I heard about Selassie's and all of that, innit?
It's a similar thing, I suppose.
You heard about Muhammad, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I thought that from what I heard, Muhammad was the last prophet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he's was what they say 400 BC or whatever, 4000 BC or whatever.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know that you've got a Korean.
We got so many
version of basically their Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Christ coming on earth, innit?
Yeah.
And actually he's living.
Well, he's dead now, but the mother is alive.
Oh, the mother is alive, yeah.
She's I don't know how old she is. I want to say the wrong age, but she must be in her 80s now, I believe. Yeah. I've actually met her. So another part I wrote in the book.
So what was that like?
It was interesting. I cried a lot because I believe she was God, and I believe that they teach you that before you were born, you were an angel in heaven, and you sinned against God so bad that you had to come to the earth and go through all this pain and then actually go to hell in the end. But because God came to Jesus the first time, and then the second time, this Korean man, his name's An Sang-hong, and then the mother as well, because they came and basically sacrificed for us. We don't have to go to hell, basically, unless we disobey them, then we go to hell. So according to the members, I'm going to hell, basically. But so is everyone else.
So what did she do that when you've met her that was outstanding, that you thought, wow? Because like I said, you cried for so long, innit? So much, innit?
It was just all the emotions I think that I already had inside of all kinds of things. That when I met her, all that just came out because I just believed that she was God. It's not that she seemed like she was God. She's really just a normal person. Well, obviously she's a normal person, but she wears this like Korean dress and she has makeup and perfume, and like she smells really nice, and she's always smiling and all the rest of it. And everyone around you, because when you go to Korea, basically you go in a group. And there were people from all different countries going together. So I think all in all, there were about 200 of us. And everyone around you, all these members are crying and being like, she's our mother and da-da-da-da. So it's kind of like you kind of also feel the same way, like it's sort of contagious. Like, I guess, mass hysteria or
something. To be honest, the more I'm listening to your story, I'm getting into like the frame of mind, like thinking like, how does someone? Because
it's hard to understand.
Yeah, but it's kind of easy to understand when you explain it in that sense. Because at the end of the day, like, how does someone try to tell someone who's living that the next person who's living is God?
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean. It's like,
there were all these prophecies in the Bible. Like they would say, like in Revelation, the Jerusalem that comes down from heaven, and then they would show another verse in Galatians and say the heavenly Jerusalem is our mother. And so it seemed like it, but then when you read the whole context of Galatians, it's not a literal mother, but it's like a metaphor and all the rest of it. So it's all sort of metaphors and that being taken out of context. But they had us there. I really believed it. And she hugged me, and I was crying because I felt like I met God. Like I thought, I can die now. Like, you know, how many people can say they met God? Yeah.
So basically, this religion seems like it's not been that old then, innit? Because if she's at just 80 odd,
yeah.
So my question would be, what happened when she died?
That's the golden question. That's an interesting one. Yeah. So when I first joined, the general consensus was she's not going to die because we're living the last days, and before she dies, we're going to go to heaven, and she's going to go to heaven alive with us. So the people who are still alive at the last day, and all the members wanted to go to heaven alive. You know, it's called the 144,000 in Revelation, and they're the ones who are redeemed from the earth or something.
So did they explain to you where is heaven?
The universe. it's another dimension, so can't see it. Yeah.
So I suppose these NASA guys been going to heaven like ever so often.
Well. Kind of, but no. I don't know. That was a grey area. Half in heaven, half not. But it's kind of like it's magic, isn't it? You know? So there were teachers that she's going to go to heaven alive, so she's not going to die. And whenever the question would be brought up by new members, is Heavenly Mother going to die? Like one day, what happens if Heavenly Mother dies? It was like, you don't ask that question because it's like you don't have faith if you ask that question. So everyone's just like, no, she's not going to die. But of course she's not going to die. No, you need to think about it spiritually, and you know. Then like the answer became more and more sort of vague as she got older, as time went by, it became more vague. So now they used to have songs in the songbook because they write their own songs, so all the songs are their songs because obviously it's about their doctrines, which is different from normal churches. So in their doctrine, in their songs, they had a song about Heavenly Mother. They had a few songs about Heavenly Mother referencing that we're going to go up to heaven with her alive. They removed those songs from the new edition. So there's no song saying that now. It just says like, well, they just completely removed them, and then some of them they changed. I think they changed the lyrics.
My thought is like, I'm not sure how they managed to get so many black people in these organizations. Black people were the one who to ask a lot of questions, didn't it? Like,
actually, a lot of members were like that at first. Then they stopped.
And then they stopped.
I don't know. I think it's a bit of a. I need to tread carefully as well when I speak. But a lot of black people are religious, right? So I think they've already got that background. They already believe in God and everything. But a lot of their churches kind of let them down as well. So they have that like church hurt, right? So when they come to this church, which is completely new, and it seems at the beginning they seem to be answering all your questions in the Bible. Like whatever question you have, like it seems like they can answer it and it makes sense. But then when you scratch a little bit more beneath the surface, it's like, oh, sister, you need to have faith now. Like, don't ask those questions. That's immature faith. You start to get rebuked. But at the start, it's like they give you everything you want. And so that it does suck a lot of people in. Like,
it just sounds like another religion, innit? Just
and it is.
That's how most of them work, innit? The wielding, then everything's going, you know what I mean? And then you're not allowed to ask these things.
There's a point, like a cut-off point where it's like, you should know already. Like, don't ask any more questions. And then any answers they give you, you know, it starts to all feel very samey. Like, okay, I knew you were going to say that kind of thing. They always have a loophole or like, you know, something.
So people, here's the book again, Church or Cult. It's on Amazon, and it's on, what did it say it was on?
That's Amazon. It's a Kindle.
Oh, Kindle, Kindle, basically, So guys, go out and get yourself a copy. It's very cheap, affordable. So so it's Shakira Thomas, and it's called Church or Cult. Is there anything else you'd like to say to them?
Just watch out. Like, they are around the area a lot. They tend to kind of target people in this like general area because the church is in that area. It's in Old Trafford, so I would say be on the watch for, you know, if someone approaches you, usually in twos, but sometimes they will approach you and it's just one person, or it could even be someone you know coming to you and saying, "Oh, I've started going to this church, you know, you should come." I would just say be on the alert. Don't think like, "Wow, it's so nice because everyone's so nice to me," or when you go to the church, it's so clean, or they give you food, or whatever. Like, just be sort of on the alert if you do go, and just kind of decide for yourself, really. But don't let them, anything they tell you or any evidence they show you, like, make sure you double checking if it's actually true. Besides that, if you're a member and you're watching, hi as well, you know me, so this is awkward. But thanks for watching anyway. If you are a member, because I know obviously they tell you not to watch, make up your mind for yourself. I'm sure you've had some of the experiences I've had, so really think for yourself, like, whether this is God's true church or not, or if it's just an organization that wants your money, basically. And if you want to test it, if you've been giving tithe regularly, stop giving tithe for a couple of months and see how they react. But that's it, really.
Okay. All right, Shakira, nice speaking to you. So so that's Shakira's story. So basically, go and support her book, please. Church or Cult. Amazon, Kindle. All right, thank you. 200%. Thank you.